In the next 10 minutes, I am about to blow your mind with what Mortal Shell 2 could have done to truly push its game design forward, and I will do it without advocating for a total game scrap or an additional bloated 2 to 3 years development cycle. My goal will be to show you the difference between what critics called a new gold standard and what a real new standard could have been. I am not going to discredit Cold Symmetry or their game. They did a wonderful job and deserve the encouragement to truly push the industry's boundaries in their next project. My goal will be to dismantle with real examples the irrational overpraise of what is today nothing more than a good and familiar game design blueprint. Can you guess the budget and the team size of Cold Symmetry's Mortal Shell 2? Because I will reveal it by the end of this video, not to pretend I know the internal production better than they do, but to put every innovation I propose here against the actual scale and resources of this production. And I'm more than certain that the beautiful bastard from Cold Symmetry would agree. Are you ready for the first absurd claim? A new gold standard for combat. Now, while the combat of Mortal Shell 2 is fun, at times very satisfying and gives way for experimentation, I struggle to see where exactly it sets a new standard. Its simplicity and partial heaviness can take away from smoother control over the attacks and the actions you actually want to execute. And brutal finishes have been present in the industry since games like Doom or God of War 2018, among many other examples, sometimes working in very similar ways. That doesn't mean the combat is bad. It means that executing familiar mechanics extremely well is not the same thing as setting a new standard. Now comes the big revelation. You're asking yourself, okay, if you're so smart, tell us what a real new standard would be. You see, combat isn't just the player's movement, actions, and enemy variety. Combat relies heavily on its overall experience, the combination of everything, and how the player has to deal with it. For Mortal Shell 2 combat to introduce truly mind-blowing innovative dynamic, the enemy's behavior and AI could have shown a clear step forward from what games of this genre typically provides us with. Are you ready? What the game could have introduced to really change this dynamic was an enemy AI learning pattern. The enemies learn your favorite moves, and it works both ways. They learn to protect themselves from your moves, and certain enemies learn to use them against you. If you've used the exact same heavy attack like I did, for example, during your playthrough, let's say 150 times against the same enemy type, the next time you face them, one of them shouts, "He's going for that attack again," and a simple dodge roll animation, a jump backward, or even dropping dead on the ground allows them to avoid you. In similar fashion, an enemy using an appropriate weapon type can learn that same move and eventually use it against you. What this innovative trick demands is a system that tracks how frequently specific attacks are successfully used against an enemy type, and after reaching a certain threshold, modifies how the enemy type reacts during future encounters. And Mortal Shell 2 already gives us a natural moment to apply that change. When you die or rest at the bonfire, the world reloads. The enemies don't need to magically learn your attacks in the middle of the combat. The game records the information. The world resets when you activate or rest at the beacon, and the appropriate enemies can return with the new behavioral conditions. Now, obviously, I am simplifying the engineering and testing involved, but the design does not require some insane catalog of entirely new enemy animations to protect themselves depending on the attack you've used against them. We are talking about simple dodge rolls, dropping on the ground, or jumping backward. And for the reverse effect, compatible enemies would need access to the appropriate learned attack animation. The player now finds himself in a peculiar situation where spamming the exact same move eventually becomes an even greater challenge. The world around him and the combat dynamic itself changes according to his playstyle. Your favorite move eventually teaches the enemy how to fight you. Now we're talking about something that I genuinely consider worthy of the word, a new gold standard for combat that could be implemented in future Soulslikes. Among the many praises, some people claim, the beacons having their own little dungeons inside, is innovation, which I am obligated to disrespectfully disagree with. Having a resting point leads you into an interesting dungeon with additional challenges, traps, special bosses, or valuable rewards is quite cool, but it doesn't exactly blow the established blueprint out of the water, especially when completing or ignoring these dungeons changes virtually nothing about the world around you or your playthrough, besides the rewards you receive, of course. Now, how do you push this concept towards something genuinely innovative? for the genre? Well, very easy. Your effort in reaching the end of these dungeons, facing their challenges and re-emerging victorious gives you one more great advantage in this dark, grim world: the ability to curse the land around that beacon and prevent the enemies you've killed there from respawning. But this isn't an automatic world state change, of course. It's your choice. It's the player's agency. If you emerge victorious from the beacon's dungeon, you are now given control over a portion of the map surrounding it, a reasonably small portion, of course. Activate the curse, clear the enemies from the region, and they no longer respawn there. If you suddenly feel like whooping some ass, simply return to that beacon, lift the curse, and the normal respawn condition returns. Once you had enough, put the curse back on that portion of the land again. Dark, grim, and very interesting. And most importantly, the beacon dungeons have now affected the world outside the dungeon and the beacon itself. From a design perspective, the requested behavior is also very narrow. The game only needs to preserve whether the curse is active for that particular region and use the condition when determining whether cleared enemies are allowed to respawn. And I would push the beacons idea even further. Make some specific beacons warn you about a great reward, something truly outstanding for your progression, but the risk might be just as high. You enter the dungeon knowing that even if you succeed, even if you walk out with massive amount of valuable resources and XP, you will be spat out somewhere completely different in the world, and not conveniently next to another beacon, not completely randomly either. Give these specific beacons a carefully balanced collection of dangerous locations where the player can re-emerge. Now your pockets are full of juicy XP, and you have a decision to make. Run for your life and desperately look for another beacon, or, if you're cocky enough, face whatever challenges are waiting for you in this new location. With careful balancing and controlled re-entry locations for these specific beacons, you've turned a dungeon into a beginning of an unpredictable dark adventure. Will the reward be worth the price you might have to pay? And of course, how can I not speak of the shells? What many call an incredible innovation, a game changer. Now, shells are indeed interesting, and they can truly diversify your journey across this world. But let me reveal something to you about these shells that I don't see reviewers or critics talk about enough. You ready? The shells provide substantial gameplay value through their different abilities and combat playstyle, but the gameplay loop around them remains largely exactly the same. They change who you are in combat, but Cold Symmetry already opened the door to something much bigger with this concept. What if the shells also changed who you are to the world? How, you might ask? These characters you incarnate already come with personalities, reputations, and skills. Each one is different from the other, very different. So let the world react to them accordingly. The fanatic old man who punches people in the face. As you reinforce your bond with him, some of the fire fanatics shown to have been his peers in life could recognize him and eventually follow him into combat. The thief who can turn invisible, his characteristics shouldn't stop at combat. Let him identify rare collectibles, hidden valuables, or loot that the other shells simply cannot detect while exploring locations. And Proxima, the warrior woman, she's got a big, round, bouncy, and strong reputation. And as the reputation grows, certain enemy types who know exactly who she was can simply decide, oh well, nope, and flee when they see her. They just run away. This will make it so every shell doesn't merely give you another collection of abilities, it changes how portions of the world interact with you. And all these characteristics could gradually become available as you reinforce your bond with each shell. Now, strengthening your bond isn't only about becoming more powerful, it makes you want to replay the game, build a strong bond with another shell, and discover the different gameplay variations and world reactions that come with that identity. This obviously demands additional scripting, behavioral conditions, balancing QA, but we've already seen glimpses of that foundation inside the game itself. We know that there are some sort of factions. We know many enemies fight each other. We know enemies can display different behavior. So take these existing foundations and turn the identity of each shell into an actual system, because the shells already change who you are in combat. Real innovation would make them change who you are to the world. Cold Symmetry has expanded its reach in the gaming industry, and with roughly 30 developers and a planned 50 million development budget, they gave you Mortal Shell 2, a great game, but also a game that, as I've showcased through this video, had massive room for what I would actually call innovation for the genre. Now you might debate me on whether a team this small working with that 50 million development budget could have actually implemented everything I proposed. My opinion is yes. Can I prove it without seeing Cold Symmetry's internal production data, development schedule and technical limitations? No, I cannot. That's one detail I could absolutely be partially wrong about. But the industry should reward great effort and great results accordingly. If Mortal Shell 2 represent an exceptional result for those resources, then I applaud the achievement. But production efficiency alone doesn't transform familiar game design into innovation. And that's why I hold my horses before calling it a game of the year or a huge leap forward or a new gold standard. Great games deserve praises. The same goes for great executions. But if we're going to call something innovative, I want to see evidence that the bar actually moved. My goal is to see every developer succeed and actually introduce innovation so that these astronomical praises become valid and feel truly earned. And I'd be happy to let Cold Symmetry borrow any of these ideas I've proposed completely and freely here. If any of them are useful, take them. Develop them, change them, do whatever you want, make them better. Let your imagination run wild and gift your players an even greater game. And there's one final revelation you probably were not expecting from me. I'm not here on YouTube to discredit developers, shit on critics, or sit around pointing out problems just for views. I actually want to make a real difference. I want to propose real innovative ideas, debate whether they are possible, improve them when they are not, and when opportunity arises, help small, big, or even AAA teams in their game development with one simple goal: to make the lives of gamers that much more interesting and engaging. So come into the comments and debate, propose projects, fire up your own ideas. And if you want more crazy solutions to gaming problems, watch me fix Starfield in this playlist and propose improvements for Crimson Desert in that video. And remember that me, you, we all have the power to change the gaming industry.